Welcome, everyone. This is Secrets of Christian Mysticism, the Hidden Teachings of Jesus, and we're going to be talking about love your enemies. And this is from the King James Version, and it's Matthew chapter 5, verse 44. You have heard that it hath been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and the unjust. As a side note to this, you know the saying, turn the other cheek. It was an Aramaic idiom that means don't start a fight. It's similar to today's idiom, kick your ass, which doesn't necessarily mean beat you up, right? Like this morning, my computer was really kicking my ass, right? So when we read turn the other cheek, we don't want to take it literally. It's an idiom, like kick your ass is. And also, you can kind of consider it to be turning the other cheek can be like offering a different perspective. Like somebody says something to you and you're looking at them like this, and then you go like this, kind of gives them a different perspective. It makes them rethink what they just said. It's just a one way you can maybe look at it, and also use that as a metaphor for different situations where that might apply, where you defuse a situation and thereby not start a fight by offering a different perspective, because that's kind of what we do, right? We turn our head and we get a different perspective. We're looking out of one eye or the other. So that's kind of, these are some ways you can look at that. And this is, basically, I think what we could say is that this is saying, keep a cool head, right? Instead of just reacting, instead of, being offended and then coming right in, for the fight, it's like, take a breath, step back, and try to see it differently, and try to get your opponent to see things differently too. So this is like a traditional view or understanding of love your enemy. So what are some of the other ways that you've heard that when you hear this particular saying, what comes up for you? How do you understand it? What is your interpretation? And how do you see it, how you can actually use it in your life?
Michael, for me, in a 12-step program, one of the first things that I learned was if I find that I'm angry at someone, or someone has done something to me that makes me feel, violated or whatever, there's something called the 14-day prayer. That's a tool of the 12-step program. And basically it's, you pray for that person for 14 days, no matter how angry you are, no matter how much of an enemy you see that person as. And actually within a couple of days, your whole attitude, everything that you see about that changes and turns. So it's actually, for me, I'm praying for that person. Whatever I want, I pray for that person, but it changes me.
Can you tell us how you pray, or what do you pray for the other person? What are you asking for them to receive?
According to the program, it's whatever it is that I want, I pray for that person. May that person find peace. May that person find happiness. May that person find contentment, whatever it is.
So it's really definitely positive things,
Yes.
Top to bottom, right? You're not praying to fix them.
Oh God, no.
Oh God.
No.
Oh, make them see it my way.
Right.
Help me to win.
Not that I wouldn't have tried that now.
I was invited to do a meditation, a healing meditation in which I envisioned the person that I was angry with up on a stage and doing what they do well, the things that I know that that person does well, and then envisioning the audience applauding them and being joyful of them. And it took me several times, days, weeks, maybe even months, but ultimately I went from just unwillingly having tomatoes thrown at them, in my imagery, to really being able to be joyful and celebrating them even in their broken places that had hurt me, and being able to really be joyful with the audience in honoring the humanity of that person, and our shared oneness, because there really is no other. It took a long time, Michael.
Well, that sounds like a great technique. I like that kind of imagery. That's really good.
I try to go into contemplation and try and get some help, from wherever, to see what I'm not seeing. So rather than doing anything with them, I'm trying to do something with myself, help me to see things more clearly, because they're probably not everybody's enemy. So why are they my enemy? So I need to take a look where there might be some delusion on my part. That's what I try to do.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, I like that. I like that saying, my adversary is my teacher.
I would like to add something there, Michael. So,
Yes, please.
I mean, obviously, after a lot of study, this has come to me. But so it's like, why did Judas be Judas? It's only because Judas was Judas, Christ could become Christ. So we all need to see, why is this person playing Judas in my life? What lesson is this person trying to teach me? And the more I think of it in that way, the more I learn my lesson faster, is what I have learned.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. It's almost like they're finding the chink in your armor, right? To use a Western metaphor, they're finding a hole, a loophole, and they're taking advantage of it. And then, so that's good, right? Then you know where the hole is. I like that in a debate. You're debating. Opponent will teach you what you don't know, or where your argument is weak. So you both benefit.
I was given a message, given from a sermon, and the title was, "What's it like to live on the other side of you?" And I thought I held that message after I heard it. That was a key point. What's it like to live on the other side of you? And if you take time to contemplate that, wow.
I had a business a long time ago where I had a wood shop, and I had about 8 or 10 guys working for me, and I was going through a real difficult time, and getting on them a lot, being critical of the work they were doing. And I was in meditation, and I was shown how they see me when I walk in the door. And oh my God, that was not pretty. It was just like, wow, I would not want to work for somebody like that. And it really turned me around. It really showed me something.
No matter how good you are the villain in somebody's story.
What I'm thinking about is how quickly, let's say I meet someone, which I do in presently what I do, my job, and at the start there's just this neutrality. I mean, I don't know I get to start to know this person, but I'm amazed at in some ways, or I'm sorry, I'm amazed at how quickly something that they might say or some energy that they have, I turn them into my adversary. And then from there, the the mind starts spinning. This is what they're like. I mean, I think about if somebody pulls out in front of me in traffic, how quickly that process, just in an instant, for me, that person becomes my adversary. I don't even know anything about them.
Yeah. That's why we don't carry guns in our glove compartments, right?
Well, I've heard try to find God or Jesus, try to find Jesus in everybody. And if you really want to challenge, go to Walmart and do that. But I found myself the other day, I got cut off in traffic, and I found myself actually saying out loud, I'm looking for you, Jesus. I'm looking for you in that person. Where are you? So yeah, it has this has a lot to do, for me, it has a lot to do with perspective. Getting outside of myself and looking at me and how others might see me, but also, just trying to look beyond the negative and basically try not, work on not being reactive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important, isn't it?
Act rather than react.
Let me tell you a little story. I was, and this goes back 20 years at least, but I was living in the Midwest, and in the Midwest, in traffic, like on the highway, if there's a road crew up ahead and they're narrowing everything down to one lane of traffic, almost everybody gets over to the right. And I'm sure this is the same just about everywhere, but everybody gets over to the right, except for that one guy, right? And he goes all the way to the head of the line and then zips in. And this was another one of my days when I wasn't really on it, So I was going to pull halfway out of my lane and then halfway into the passing lane to be the vigilante, right? To keep people from doing that. And sure enough, this guy comes up behind me, and then he goes off into the median to get around me. And I watch him as I do it, and he had no shame, no register of remorse, or like he was even getting away with something. He did it as though it was like he was just, like it was nothing, right? And it was like something happened in my head, like some kind of circuit breaker was tripped. And I thought to myself, this is insane. I am being insane. And so I thought, I've got to fix this, and I've got to fix it like right now. So what I did, I pulled out of my lane and I went to the head of the line and got in. So what I did is I did the thing that I hated him for doing. You see? And an interesting thing happened once I did that completely and thoroughly. It never bothered me again. In fact, if I saw somebody, if I was in line and somebody was trying to squeeze into my lane, having come all the way up from the back of the line, I would slow down and let them in. That's how completely over that I got just by doing that one thing. So I've thought about this for a long time, and I would like there to be a formula, and a way to apply it, in different situations, because something really profoundly shifted in me just by that simple act. Oh, and then later I found out, I was listening to NPR, and they were talking about this phenomenon, and it's called late merging. There's a term for it, late merging. And it turns out that when people do that, the flow of traffic is improved, sped up, by 20%.
Hmm.
So it was like, I've been upset all that time for nothing. It actually works much better. So it was, it's that kind of experience. Your adversary is your teacher, teaching you something that, maybe the thing we're getting so upset about, we're just simply mistaken. That's how it worked for me anyway, on that day.
So I think about what annoys me about someone doing that. They appear selfish, aggressive, unconcerned about others. And I guess, Michael, I'm wondering, are you saying or indicating that perhaps, so are you're somehow integrating, what upset you about him doing that? What got you so angry? Can you recall?
Good question. It was definitely triggering something in me, something like I wasn't being appreciated, or this isn't right, but this is the thing, isn't it? It's like when we get offended by someone, it's usually because it's triggering something in us.
Well,
It's
I
like
guess
some
what I'm saying
open
is,
sore.
yeah. And I can relate to his behavior because there's part of myself that is like that, right?
Yeah, right.
So are we headed towards, is this an integration of a part of us that we're unaware of, perhaps, by
Yeah,
doing this?
yeah, because that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, we hold ourselves in such high esteem, like we can do no wrong. And from that vantage point, everybody's going to look like our adversary, right? But when we acknowledge that we've got the same thing within us, then things start to balance out, and they start to integrate.
Wow.
I'm sure that's what happened when I did
think-
that, when I actually did the thing that I was criticizing him for. It integrated that part of myself.
Wow.
Yeah, to me, it just sounds like a form of shadow work. We're not always aware of our shadow, but when our adversary, brings out the monster in us, it's kind of revealed, that part of us that we repress exists, and a way to counter it is what you did, right? You tried it out, and it healed you to a certain extent of at least that reactive fury.
Right. Yeah. In that particular case, with that particular problem, it healed it instantly and completely. It was total. It's a total experience. But what you're saying makes me think that perhaps, when we see some, like an atrocity, a war atrocity, that the reason it gets to us so badly is that maybe in a past life we did the same thing. And it's so deeply shameful and so deeply we're so traumatized by it on a soul level that we cannot bear to see it, because to really take it in means that we have to examine it. We'd have to revisit that in ourselves, right? And usually that kind of thing that traumatizes us so bad, we stuff it, and then we cover it with concrete, and then we pile stuff on top of that, and more and more and more, until it's so deeply buried that we're totally unconscious of it, and yet it's still in there heating the ground, right? We don't know where the heat's coming from, but it's definitely there. And then whenever somebody does something similar, the ground shakes, and we freak out.
I'd like to say that I think behind all of these things that lurk within us, it's really just about the self. So when we see somebody doing something like cutting us off, whatever that annoys us, we think they're selfish, but really it's all about ourself. As far as I'm concerned, we're concerned about ourselves in all those situations. And if we weren't, it wouldn't bother us much. Any situation. So we don't have to zero in on a particular one. I think when we look at the bottom line of all situations that are annoying, it's all about me. If it wasn't, we wouldn't be quite as annoyed. It'd be interesting in that particular example you gave, Michael, whether everybody in that line was feeling the same way. Maybe somebody was listening to some tunes and just having a great time. You know, you just don't know. But mostly it's just about us.
Yeah. I think when, New Age teachings where they say, we're just all one person, or, we're one with everybody, that could be what they're talking about. It's not necessarily a negation of individuality. It's more that when we see somebody else doing something, they affect us. We're connected, right? It's through that connection that we get bothered. So it's obvious to me that shadow work has a lot to do with loving your enemy. He was careful to say love your enemy, not love the enemy. And I think there's something to that, because the enemy is too objectifying. It's too other. It's the problem we have today when, if you have an adversary, it's not just that they're wrong, it's that they're evil. And so that objectifies them, because you're turning them into a demon. You're demonizing them. And we all have that tendency. So it's like it's a failure to own. And by own, I mean to include that person within your tribe, or your and in this case, the tribe would be the tribe of the human race. In other words, you're acknowledging that person is human just like you are. So they're not a foreign entity. They're not a demon come to harass you. They are just simply human, right? And then we get to see, okay, well, I have humanity within myself, so I have things that I do that are going to bother other people as well. So it all seems to circle back and come into this process of integration, where that's really the task, and that's really like the purpose behind the teaching of love your enemy, is to get us to start down that path. That's how it seems to me.
The enemy's not necessarily another person. I'm loving my enemy, which is all of that I don't want as part of me, which is shadow work, right?
Yeah,
or the shadow. And that when I get angry at someone else, it's because I'm seeing that part of me in their actions, or I'm projecting. So if I can learn to identify those shadow parts, first I have to identify them before I can love them. And once I identify them, then I can start to realize that and see that what I'm seeing in others that makes me angry isn't really, it's me. It's part of me. It's not that person.
How do you love those parts in yourself?
I'm not there yet. You're gonna help us figure that out, right?
Oh, come on.
I mean, acceptance has a lot to do with it, right? I'm going to go back to the 12-step program again. So what I find in the rooms is that a lot of people through these steps, once we identify those, as they're termed in the program, character defects, I know a lot of people who say, oh, well, that's just the way I am. That's my character defect. Whereas I feel like, well, if I know that about myself, I need to do something to change that, right? Rather than just going around wearing it on my sleeve as this is part of me. I mean, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of walking such a path, right? I think it starts with acceptance. And then for me, when I catch myself, whether it's being angry at someone, and praying for them, or doing a mindfulness meditation, or, using some sort of tool to try to change it.
I like what Renee said about the acceptance. There was, I think it was Sadhguru or someone, yeah, Sadhguru said it might be too hard to love your enemy, so I tell you, love your friend. And it kind of reframes the person who's in front of you. You think of them as your friend.
Yeah, that's sometimes even a bigger challenge, isn't it? Because they, you know, when our friends cross us, it's like a betrayal. So we've got that added on top of the irritation. Isn't that a lot of fun?
I think there's another side to all of these parts of us, right? So for example, my dad's a musician. He's a gifted musician, and with that comes, and there's a right and a wrong way to do certain things, and a rigidity about them, and you know that comes out as musical giftedness and genius, and he can play Bach, and he can, you know, do these incredible things because of his precision and his accuracy. But when it comes to, you know, I'm going to change the plan for dinner, or, you know, he's noise sensitive, clanging pots make him, you know, send him over the moon. I mean, I think the more we lean into like those idiosyncrasies that are people's gifts, if you see the other side of it, it's sometimes hard to tolerate. But if you can balance it with the blessing, and say, well, you know, musicians can be challenging, at least with those qualities, but here's the blessing, and how to work with that as a reality, as opposed to, you know, countering it with this person is rigid and impossible in these areas.
Yeah, peacemakers can be so insufferable.
Is that me?
It's like,
am I the peacemaker?
It's like, don't you ever get tired of having to understand other people?
I taught middle school for 20 years, Michael. 20 years
Oh my
of
God.
7th and 8th graders. And you have to love, if you can't love raw humanity with that age level, it's, I mean, they're so just unapologetically themselves at that time, and it's so awkward for everybody.
Yeah,
it's a great
yeah.
age to fall in love with if you can.
Yeah, I don't think so. I could never do that, Leah.
I didn't say I wanted to go back. That's a different story.
So listening to everybody, there are these couple of images that come to me. Is when we talk about change, you know, we all are born. You know, I want to use this term born with weaknesses and strengths. So I would like to compare it to metamorphosis, you know, of a caterpillar into a butterfly. And I mean, this is a question, I don't want to answer it, rather carry it. When the caterpillar transforms into the butterfly, does everything of the caterpillar go away? Or is there something that is retained? And somehow, if we can compare this phenomena to our weaknesses and strengths, why was I born with this weakness? Why do I have these set of strengths? And is it necessary for me to work on my weaknesses? Or will I be taking away some strengths because I'm working on some weaknesses? These are very deep questions, honestly, not superficially answerable. But these are questions we need to ask.
I was wondering the very same thing when Renee brought up, and she wondered why I looked at her, and I'm often to be careful here.
I heard lots of heavy sighs.
About changing our, if she used the term character defects. I've spent so much time in an inner analysis, and coming up in a Western, you know, traditional Christian, first Catholic and then evangelical, this internal battle of I should be like this, not like that. So the struggle and like the energy of trying to push the defects down or keep them down. And certainly don't want, you know, reactive anger. You know, if I had to pick a character defect or arrogance, you know, I don't want to manifest that. But is there something about that? Is there a quality about that is useful? Is it something unique about me that I contribute to the whole? If I can not necessarily change it, but maybe what's the word? I think subjugate is too much pressure.
Analyze.
Well, integrate. What do you say? I'm sorry.
Analyze it constructively.
Yeah.
Adapt or integrate.
Yeah.
Adapt. Yeah.
Yeah, so Nietzsche, Anton, I think Nietzsche had a really good thing to say about this. He said, and this is roughly paraphrasing, he said, be careful when you go to throw the devil out of yourself. You might be throwing away the best part.
Mm.
That's worth meditating on. So, and it really has to do with shadow work. Because it's like, say, take anger, especially like homicidal anger, like you know, in traffic or wherever, you know, you just feel like you want to kill somebody. And to try to deny that is you're trying to fix something that you perceive as a character defect. And you're not going to be able to fix that because it's so deeply rooted in the human part of us, in the body part of us, that, I mean, we're set up that way, that we're set up to compete, and we're set up to defend, and we're set up to conquer, and to take, right? That's all active in us, just as it is in any other species of animal. Not that we're animals, but we have an animal body. And so we've, you know, part of this whole experience here on Earth, it's like that interlaced triangle, you know, the triangle that's pointing down and the triangle that's pointing up. They're interlaced, and that's like the condition of humanity, is that we have our higher nature and lower nature, and the whole project has to do with integrating the two. So if we can harness that energy without trying to squelch it or stuff it down or deny that it's there. You see, if I'm in a confrontation with somebody and I really, that surges up in me, I'm angry and I just want to punch them or something like that, I can take the energy of that and then do something constructive. In other words, I can want to kill them and yet still maybe open the door for them. You know, maybe I'm trying to get into, you know, a revolving door and somebody pushes in front of me and goes in first. Or, you know, and then I go to another part of the building and then they're there. And so I open the door for them. I want to kill them. But while sitting in that, I do something constructive. So what I'm doing then is I'm using that energy of that extreme negative energy to do something positive. So I am converting it. I'm integrating it. I'm using it as fuel for the positive action. I'm not trying to not feel it, right? I'm not trying to deny it in myself. I still want to kill him, but I'm keeping my sword sheathed, and I'm doing something positive instead. You see, and this is so different from the way we normally go about it, because normally we feel that way and then we go through the whole shame spectrum, right? Oh, I shouldn't feel that way. This is so awful of me, and da-da-da-da-da-da. But to really acknowledge it and to own it and let it come up in you, and then to use that energy as fuel to do something positive, it doesn't get rid of that, because you wouldn't want to get rid of it. What it does is it puts a bright, sharp edge around the action. You see, it's got all of that energy behind the thing that you're doing. So you're steering it. You're taking this thing and you're showing it where to go. But you don't want it to diminish. You want to keep that. You want to keep it as it is, because it's powerful. The more you do that, then the more integrated it becomes, and then the less reactive you get, but the more solid you become. And people start to regard you differently, because they see the brightness and the intensity of that energy right underneath the surface. So they treat you with more respect. They listen more carefully at to what you have to say. They give you a certain space in which to maneuver. So you have greater agency and greater influence in the world. It elevates every part of you into a stronger position. If you know the tarot card Strength, key 8, it's a woman, very elegant woman with her arms around this angry red lion. And this is exactly what the card's about. She's controlling the lion by using the energy, but she's not taming the lion. She's not turning it into a pussycat. The lion is always and will always be a lion. I was just thinking of the lion shall lie down with the lamb.
Yeah. Isaiah,
You know that part?
Isaiah.
Is it?
I believe so.
Oh, it's out of the Old Testament?
Yep.
Yeah, I see, and what I'm thinking is that, you know, it's a symbolic language. You know, everything in the Bible pretty much is symbolic language, not just a metaphor, but symbol. You know, that's more powerful than a metaphor. It's not saying, well, the lion's going to lose its predatory nature, you know, or the lamb's going to lose its fear. I think that what it's really saying is that those two aspects are going to be combined into one person. So you have the lion and you have the lamb. You can be gentle, but you can also be fierce, because those two are fully functional within you. See, and this is really getting at the mystical interpretation of love your enemy, because when you have those two aspects fully integrated within you, it puts you in such a position of strength and equanimity. You're centered because you're balanced, because you've got both of those aspects in operation within you. You're not squelching one or hiding one.
Is that similar to the passage in the Gospel of Thomas? The man, the one who you can either be devoured by the lion, or you can consume the lion.
Yeah, exactly.
Do I have that right?
There's in the Norse legends, there's a guy named Siegfried, and Siegfried is a hero, and he slays the dragon. And there's this woodcut, this painting of him right after he's killed the dragon. He takes the dragon's blood and he's got it to his mouth. So he's eating the dragon's blood. And I think that's what all of these things, I think they're all pointing at the same thing. Love your enemy, the lion and the lamb, all of these things. It's talking about integration and how this is done in a way that strengthens us and doesn't make matters worse. Because if you eat the lion, you're using it as fuel. Food is fuel. But if the lion eats you, then you're just giving yourself over to your negative impulses. You know, you're just letting that predatory creature come out in you.
I like what you said about the sword in the sheath. It's not as though there's no sword. It's just
Right.
it's there.
Yep. Yeah, there's one definition of the word meek is one who has a sword and knows how to use it, but keeps it sheathed. That's the teaching of self-restraint, and they are the ones who will inherit the earth.
Could you say that again? It broke up.
It's the definition of meek is one who has a sword and knows how to use it, but keeps it sheathed. And that's the very picture of self-restraint. And those who have mastered self-restraint, they will inherit the earth.
The fruit of the spirit.
Yep.
You know, Michael, when I used to take karate, one of the symbolic gestures was you make a fist and you cover it. And it's exactly the same thing as the same symbolism.
And it's always the left hand covering the right hand.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because the left hand is the passive or receiving, and the right hand is the, positive. So the left hand has the right hand contained. Nitu, were you going to say something?
Yeah. So what I heard from you, Michael, I actually get this image of acceptance, like I heard earlier also, that acknowledgement comes first, second comes acceptance. So accepting that I have all this in me, I am the lamb, I am the lion, and I am the free bird. I have all of it inside me, and sometimes my emotions get the better of me, and that part of me comes out, which we call the shadow, which is usually reaction and not response. So we all carry all these bodies, we all have a lion, we all have a lamb. So when the passage says the lion will lie down with the lamb, actually means this: when you can accept and learn to work with them. See, sometimes you need to harness the powers of the lion in you where you need them. There the lamb won't work. So denying the power of being a lamb or being a lion is actually our own selves. And see where we are today. I'm going to touch 50 this year. Even if now I can't talk about these bigger concepts, then how am I going to educate my children? How will, because we're constantly is this in the sense of fear. We are always functioning, living out of fear. Fear of no food, fear of no home, fear of no, we are done. What is it? We have everything. I mean, how much more do you need? Then why are we raising our children in so much fear? You can't talk this, you can't express yourself. This is the way to express yourself. I mean, we are done with it. What are we doing to our children? We need to accept ourself first, and then only we'll be able to accept our children. And the easiest way, because we can't change ourselves, we want to quickly fix our children, because that's what you can do, and it's in your hand. And that's exactly where we are going wrong. We're trying to fix the other and not ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that when children are very perceptive, they really see energy in you. So like if they anger you, and you can't hide that, right? I mean, you're angry in that moment, but then you exercise self-restraint and you turn it into taking care of them, even though you want to throttle them. But they'll see that. They'll see the shift in the energy. They'll see the one being contained by the other. And that's the best lesson you can ever give, because it's a cliche. We teach by example, but it's the energy. It's how we handle our own internal energies that is the example that they are most perceptive to. They really see that. So
Michael,
but I understand your concern. Yeah, go ahead.
Just something came up that I was thinking about. The metaphor for the lion and the lamb, would that be could that be a metaphor for positive and negative masculine and feminine energy?
Yeah, you could look at it like that.
Kind of on the same
I think that might complicate it too much, because the energy will work through both of them. I mean, I'm not saying it's not, you meditate on it and see. I just know that whenever we start to talk about the differences between masculine and feminine, that it gets problematic really fast. Because we've got both. Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, it's
How that
interesting.
post, Michael.
The card you mentioned is that it's a very, you mentioned it's a female holding the angry red lion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, there's
that lion can be a quality for all of us.
Yes, right. Well, it is. It is because in the tarot, the female figures represent the subconscious mind.
Mhm.
I shared with
But
my
that's just
children in
symbolic.
children's church that we are made perfectly imperfect in the image of God, and that means loving the parts of ourselves that are hard to love and that make it hard to be us. And I shared the example of my distractibility. It's really beautiful when I see the butterfly and I follow it and and waft into a mystical experience with that. But with that comes the, is it a time that's safe to do, or am I supposed to be attending to something else, and just trying to lean into that aspect of ourselves that's hard to love, because God made us exactly how we're meant to be. And part of honoring God is honoring those parts of ourselves that make it difficult and challenging.
So I'm going to push your religious conditioning here a little bit. So if God made us, how'd you say, imperfectly?
Perfectly imperfect.
Perfectly. Yeah.
In the image of
Well,
God.
yeah. So that means that God is perfectly imperfect too.
Yeah.
Maybe God created us just to see if he could love us or not.
This
Or love
isn't
him.
this isn't up to this is
To
good
love him or
conversation.
herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of those emotions that we feel, we can only feel because God feels those emotions. So even those awful, horrible, God understands us because God can feel that too. I mean, the spirit groans, on our behalf, with in the Psalms. If you read the Psalms, it's deep and powerful. And yeah, there's many aspects to God as described. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's power and there's joy and there's fury. All those aspects are important to honor within ourselves and to recognize within the divine.
Yeah. So it's important when we think about God, and it's like we have to be careful not to think of God as something out here and we're down here, like this.
Mm-hmm.
That it's better to think that it's just all one being. It's just all one thing, and this is the internal mechanism, or the way the one thing works. You see, it kind of destroys that image that we have of this benevolent father looking down and taking care of us and all of that. It's like we're in it. We're in God.
Mm-hmm.
God is not outside of us in any way. I saw this meme that described theism and deism and all those isms, and different, God outside of creation, God encapsulating creation, and then there was another one.
I think
But
I
then
saw
the
it
last
too.
one, yeah, with the egg. It was an
Mhm.
egg, and the egg was cracking open, and the little chick was coming out from inside. And the egg is God, and the chick coming out is creation, or us. So it's like we're being born out of God. It's like a process. It's a living thing. It's not a static, top-down kind of arrangement, right? We are God, and we are being born into the full realization of the one great being in our part in it, right? It's a whole different way of approaching this idea, this question of God.
So when we say namaste, it's I honor the divinity within you, or the divinity in me honors the divinity with you. Or Ubuntu is I am because you are. Those kinds of expressions from different cultural lenses help us to understand that.
Yeah, and actually the Christianity raised that to a new level with the term, with agape, because it's not only I honor the God within you, I expect the God in you.
I like that.
That's what agape means.
Hmm.
We bring each other into full personhood by our expectation of the manifestation of God in each other. We put that on each other, really. We're holding each other accountable all the time, which is what agape means. It's we're there for each other. We're watching, we're looking for the good. We're looking for the more complete, more divine manifestation in each other. And because of that expectation, we're drawing it out.
Mhm.
So yay, Christianity, right? I'm just kidding. I hope you know
Yes.
about that. All right. Well, we're kind of at a full 60 minutes here, I think. Was there anything else anybody wanted to bring up? So I'd like to give you something to do for next week, and that is go cut in line. And use that as a metaphor. You know, you can cut in line in so many ways. Do something that would, if somebody else did, it would irritate you.
Wow, that's an assignment right there.
Isn't it? Isn't it? Just don't get caught.
Tom and I are looking
All
at
right.
each other like we've already got it planned out.
All right. I love you guys. And I
Thank-
hope you come back next week because this is so much fun.
Great. Thank you,
Thanks,
Michael.
Michael.
Thanks,
Love
everybody.
you.
All righty. Take care. Bye, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.